Hello, welcome to L.I.N.K Live. This is Marina Mayer. I'm the editor-in-chief of Food Logistics and Supply and Demand Chain Executive. And I'm here with my beautiful editors. Hello, hello. Brielle, I'll kick it off to you.
Hi, I'm Brielle Jagle. I'm associate editor.
And I am McKenna Morales, and I am the web editor.
And we have a special guest today who decided to join us. Good luck to Alan. Alan Jagnandan, he's the vice president of LaSalle Network. And today we're going to be talking about education in the supply chain. And you know, one of the things that Alan, his company does consulting in education industry for supply chain. So education is such a big topic today, especially with you know, people graduating and going into school, trying to figure out what they want to be in combination with the coronavirus. So there's a lot of different things going on in this landscape. And so we thought we'd just kind of bring Alan on to kind of provide a little bit more expertise. So thank you, Alan, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm not sure what I signed up for with that cautious remark, but
I know it's always silly here. So we appreciate you joining us. One of the things we wanted to kind of talk about is supply chain roles. So what kind of supply chain roles have skyrocketed over the course of the coronavirus, and why do you see that happening?
Yeah, so I can paint a broad brush on this topic of supply chain careers and jobs in that it is one of our most robust practices from a recruiting standpoint. I know the question is specific to what changes or what's more on demand, quote unquote, when it comes to supply chain careers during the last 3-4 months of this quarantine. There's a scarcity for supply chain talent, and there has been for probably the last decade or so. As organizations recognize the cost savings that they can derive bringing in the right talent versus just really pushing revenue and focusing on the sales and marketing aspect of it. Obviously, supply chain can save millions of dollars in some organizations' cases. So, but specifically the last several months during the pandemic, within the CPG and manufacturing space, it was really tied closely to the food and beverage industry, as that was basically put on its head. You're not able to go to restaurants and bars any longer to have food, right? A dinner out or a lunch out. And so, of course, everyone was going to the grocery store. So your big box retailers needed supply. And, you know, there were inventory issues at the beginning of each fiscal year, and actually months in advance of the year upcoming. Your supply chain organization works very closely with their sales team and figures out what is the optimal amount of inventory based on trends, seasonal trends of the previous years. And no leader in their right mind had any clue that this was going to take place, right? And so back to your specific question on the roles that have really skyrocketed, it's at the production facility itself where the manufacturing is actually taking place. Inventory analysts, production planners, schedulers. We've got a big uptick in transportation and logistics professionals working for these consumer packaged goods and manufacturing companies, as well as more labor intensive types of roles. Your pickers and packers, folks doing the maintenance to keep the assembly line, if you will, and the robotics that drive the output ticking. So it was really across the board. Our corporate supply chain hiring, it just maintained, but that goes back to the scarcity of the talent in that specific space.
Okay, and girls, you can jump in at any time with any questions you have. I'll just go to the next one, then we can kind of jump in. How should companies be hiring for these key supply chain roles? Like, what are they looking for on their resumes? What kind of interview questions should they be asking?
Yeah, so in terms of the resume, I know that you touched on initially entry-level grads, folks that are coming out of school right now, and there's a lot of ambiguity right now. I'm not sure if there's so much more that they can do with regards to a resume because their classes have already completed, and hopefully they were fortunate to land an internship over the past 4 years and actually build their resume up a little bit to get more eyes. But when we're talking about experienced talent, specifically within supply chain, the system, the ERP system that is most prevalent is SAP. And so individuals that bring the SAP ERP experience to the table traditionally have a leg up unless an organization is on an Oracle or JDA type of an ERP system. The one that's universal is Excel, advanced Excel skills. We see that with just about every hiring manager that we communicate with coast to coast is we talk about their top 3 must-haves, if you will, and Excel is always one of those 3 when it comes to finance and accounting and your supply chain professionals. Longevity, this isn't just during the pandemic. Organizations want to hire loyal employees. They're gun shy on someone that may have jumped around 3, 4, 5 times over an 8-year time frame. Now, you don't always want to judge a book by its cover because we're in an era of M&A, mergers and acquisitions, and there are people that jumped ship because their organization was acquired and there were redundancies and they were nervous about their role being eliminated, or it was. It was just the natural fate of the organization that they had joined. So longevity is really what organizations are looking for on a resume. Career advancement, of course. I think it's important, and I always like to note this when we're giving advice to our candidates, is to put achievements on the actual resume. What types of cost savings did you provide the company that you were working for? Make it very tangible so it jumps out at the prospective hiring manager or organization that you're submitting your resume to.
I recently talked to someone and they said that their piece of advice to new graduates was to get certified in as many things as possible because that's a big resume booster. But how can students get certified in these systems while they're still at school and during a pandemic, I guess?
Yeah, believe it or not, we haven't seen the certifications be an emphasis from our hiring manager's perspective, at least with supply chain. I see it more on the technology end, like it's a PMP certification, or you went to a code academy of some kind and learned Python or some sort of programming language that you get a certification for. Within supply chain on the entry-level side, we just haven't seen it be an emphasis from the hiring manager. So I don't know if I can specifically give you pointed advice on that. I will say that this goes back to experienced talent. For the most part, when organizations are looking to hire full-time direct hire, the bare minimum is a 4-year bachelor's degree. But one of the trends that we are seeing over the last 3-4 months is, given the scarcity of talent, experience is trumping the requirement for a 4-year bachelor's degree. And they're more likely and more keen on getting somebody that may have actually gotten their foot in the door within another department on more of an administrative or clerical end, worked really hard, was able to get promoted and then transitioned over to, say, an inventory position or supply planning within their supply chain and operations team, and worked in that group for 6-7 years and actually gained real world experience and knowledge on that particular area of specialization. And so companies are taking a pass on saying, well, the requirement was a 4-year bachelor's degree because this person has the relevant, tangible experience to jump in, plug and play, especially given most people are working remotely right now. You want candidates that have a shorter learning curve, that don't need the hand holding. They don't need to sit next to somebody in an office and be trained up day in and day out. And so I know that doesn't answer your question on the certifications, but I hope it does paint a picture on, I would hate to have candidates listening who maybe are non-degreed be discouraged if they actually do have the tangible, relevant experience doing this type of work.
Mm-hmm. And then just going back to your statement on longevity, because with the younger millennials and then the Gen Z that are entering the workforce, it's more standard for them to stay at a job for like 2 to 3 years before they switch to a new position or a new company. What can companies do to make them want to stay for like 6 or 7 years?
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. The new normal, it seems, is 3 years and then jump. 3 years and then jump. So I've been at our organization for 15 years, and my friends look at me like, well, they're either doing something really, really right by retaining me, or I'm doing something wrong by staying there. I former, and I look at myself just specifically, and it was opportunity within an organization that was growing, and within a growing organization, you do have the ability to move up, right? And so I think the advice I would give to employers is be very transparent about what the employee needs to do tangibly to move up, right? Map out, meet with the employee every 6 months or quarterly to make sure that they're on track to actually earn the promotion. But it really does hinge on a company putting value and stock in training and developing the talent that they've got, making those individuals feel appreciated, recognizing them. It doesn't always have to be monetary salary increases. Don't get me wrong. No one can turn down a raise or a spot bonus or an annual bonus. But being recognized by your peer group, being recognized by leadership at an organization goes a long way. And it's really that intrinsic value that you can derive from an award, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a company-wide email or in front of a town hall or something of that nature. So
should all companies have like a required mentoring program then?
Yeah, we're seeing that as much more common is having a mentoring program. And I think it's probably even more, it'll become more of an emphasis in the, hopefully it's not a new normal where we're all working remotely, but, for the next, 6 to 12 months, who knows when there will be a vaccine that can take care of this pandemic. But, yeah, mentorships go a long way, but it's not just on the mentor. It goes both ways. The mentee has to be just as invested, if not more, in the relationship to ensure that they're maximizing the output that they're getting from the mentor.
Brielle, did you have some questions or something to say?
I was just curious about the loyalty. So obviously on the resume, you're going to look for being at a company for, a long time instead of the jumping around. But what else do you look at to find, employees that you think are more loyal?
Good question.
And so I guess your question is it outside of being somewhere for 8 years to drive? I would have to lean on a candidate providing multiple references from said company that you could speak to and actually get a sense of what they were like day in and day out. In most cases, there's a reason that organizations will hang on to people, but I guess on the flip side, to play devil's advocate, people can hide in larger organizations. And it can be looked at as, they're loyal, but maybe they're just kind of biding their time. And so I think that's where having hiring manager references, and not just one, but multiple references that can speak to the work product, the output, what he or she was bringing to the table day in and day out, just to validate why we're retained for so long.
Are there any positions or roles that supply chain teams that they don't have that they should be implementing into their team structure, whether that's related to COVID or not?
Yeah, so we're seeing a trend in, it's probably over the last 18 months, and this isn't a new concept. Procurement's been around for decades, right? But strategic sourcing has really, really picked up steam and momentum over the past 3 or 4 years. And so, again, it goes back to, and these are really longer term types of solutions, and working with your vendors as partners, but also you're working to just try and maximize the cost savings for said organization. And so, yeah, strategic sourcing, I think, will continue to be an area of emphasis for companies. The other area that we've really seen, that's probably over the last 5 or 6 years now, is specifically demand planning. And so this goes back to what I initially touched on, when leaders are putting together their forecast to ensure they have the right amount of inventory or supply on hand for peak season, or just the ebbs and flows of the fiscal year. In years past, salespeople can go out and say, well, I'm going to sell this much inventory to, this big box retailer. And if there's no checks and balances, what you'd end up having was surplus. And that's just, it's waste at the end of the day. But if you're a salesperson, you don't want to be stuck in a position where you've under forecasted and then therefore you don't have enough inventory to actually deliver to your customer, because that could lead to another competitor in that same category inching their way into your shelf space, for example. And I know a lot of it has shifted to e-commerce as well, but obviously if you have to sit there and wait for 3-4 months for a specific product, or even a couple weeks or a couple days, if there's an alternative that's got a very similar price point, you want it that bad, you're probably going to go down that path and actually choose the alternative. And so this goes hand in hand with your question on where we've seen organizations beef up specific areas within supply chain, and that's the demand planning function. So demand planning works hand in hand with your sales organization to ensure that, okay, the numbers do match up. They are forecasting X, Y, Z, and we validated it through the analytics of the median, worst case scenario, best case scenario, to ensure that there's not too much waste, or we don't actually have too little inventory to get to the customer. So demand planning, I would say, and then strategic sourcing are probably the two biggest areas where we see demand.
And do you see any of these roles shifting once things kind of go back to normal, whether that be a new normal or not?
No, I honestly don't. Unemployment was at between 3.5% and 4% across the board, and that took into account all skill sets within our economy. And supply chain, the unemployment rate for supply chain professionals was around 1.5 to 2 points. And so this goes back to there being a scarcity for talented supply chain professionals. I don't see I imagine there's probably going to be, crisis groups that are created to better plan for crisis situations like this, that are tied to operations and or supply chain. But of the areas that are currently in existence within the supply chain operations organization, I don't see anything going anywhere. In fact, they're just going to continue to beef that up, because if we do run into a recession, you're not selling more products. Well, you can't sell and push the top line revenue how else can you find profitability? And that's in cost saving measures. And it goes directly back to your supply chain organization and identifying where they can get some wins in saving money, whether it's with vendors from a packaging standpoint or raw ingredients or staffing and recruiting solutions, what have you. So I don't see it going anywhere.
Brielle, McKenna, do you guys have any more questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, so we are launching L.I.N.K Educate tomorrow. It's our online podcast series that Brielle and McKenna have both worked on, where they've interviewed veterans in the industry, professors, young employees, just to kind of get a feel as to, how the supply chain industry has evolved in terms of training and getting people more involved in the industry and upskilling and reskilling and everything that goes into it. So this was kind of a great segue into that because that launches tomorrow and it goes on our website, sdcexec.com, every Thursday. And that's in honor of Supply and Demand Chain Executive's 20-year anniversary. So, that's very exciting. We also have on sdcexec.com our Women in Supply Chain Award. The nominations have been extended to July 17th. And so please go on and nominate. And Alan, obviously anybody in your organization, any good females that are just making a great impact in your organization or any of the clients that you deal with, please make sure you nominate them because that's our great award that we're very excited about. And while you're on our websites, foodlogistics.com, sdcexec.com, you'll see SCN Summit, our supply chain threats summit that we did last week, our session, which went fabulous. It's now on demand, so you can go on and register and just watch it at your leisure whenever you want. Registration is also open for our July 28th series on navigating business amid COVID-19. So please make sure you go on and register. Again, the same registration link goes to all 4 sessions. It's like a steal. So, Alan, thank you very much. Alan Jagnandan from LaSalle Network. Thank you very much for joining us today and providing all that wonderful information because education is such a hot topic in supply chain. And I know I'm not an expert in it, so it was good to have somebody on board to kind of provide some expertise of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. I'm happy to come back anytime. So
perfect. Be careful what you wish for.
It only went smooth this time. We can't say it.
Yeah, well, the dogs were circulating, so I was kind of nervous.
A dog walking in the background. It's terrible.
I know. Hey, I'll take it if that's the best we
Just
can do.
kidding.
Did I forget anything else, ladies, before
No.
we sign off? Okay. Thank you again for watching L.I.N.K Live. And be sure to go on our Facebook pages, go on to our Instagram, our Twitter, our LinkedIn, our...
All social.
All social. There's always one I'm forgetting. As well as foodlogistics.com and sdcexec.com. And we will see you next week at 11 a.m. Central.
Bye.
Thank you.